All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Shawn Porter and Terence Crawford and some advice Shawn Porter gave to Terence Crawford, which to me was like, man, you cannot tell me this dude is not just a wee bit biased against Errol Spence Jr. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division talking about Shawn Porter and Terence Crawford and a conversation they had on the Porter Way podcast where Shawn Porter advised Terence Crawford not to sign that Errol Spence Jr. contract until he makes sure he gets all the money he deserves. Now, before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also, if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter, again, thank you so much for coming by. Greatly appreciate you guys supporting in the live streams and in the videos we do every day. So let's get to it. Shawn Porter is having a conversation with Terence Crawford on the Porter Way podcast. Very good conversation, enlightening conversation in a lot of different ways, not related to the Errol Spence Jr. fight, but really enlightening, as far as the relationship between the two, advice that one was giving the other, and just you could really tell why they said heading into their fight that they didn't want to fight each other because they considered themselves to be friends. That was very obvious in the way that those guys were interacting. And in the interview, of course, they brought up to a small extent what was going on with the Errol Spence Jr. fight, and they let the cat out of the bag really quick. I mean, for a very short amount of time, and pretty much confirmed what I had thought and what other people were thought was a holdup, which was that Terence Crawford wants more money for the fight. Now, do not tell me that it is anything other than that, because when Shawn Porter says, look, we're going to honor the wishes of Terence Crawford. We're not going to ask about the ongoing negotiations and all of that stuff. And all they really did was ask him, hey, man, do you really need this fight? Now, when he asked, do you need this fight? Soon as he thought that, I was like, okay, that's a setup question. Okay, because I already knew the answer to that one, and they had already said that they were going to talk about the questions and what he was willing to answer and what he was not willing to answer. So he being Terence Crawford, what he was not willing to answer. So when Shawn Porter asked him, so do you need this fight? And he says, no, I don't need that fight. Right. And then he goes on to say, I don't need the fight. I want the fight, but I don't need it. I'm already a Hall of Famer. So, if I get it, that's really good. I've never had a rival before. So if I could get a rivalry, going, that's really great. I know all my fans want the fight, but, no, I don't need the fight, but it's something that I want. Right. So right there, I was like, okay, nice handoff to Terence Crawford, Shawn, because that right there is a negotiation type of thing where you put out there again that you're taking a stance that you don't really need this. Yes, it's a nice to have, but it's not something that is essential to my career. I'm already in the Hall of Fame. Unlike Errol Spence Jr., who says that he needs strap season, he needs that undisputed belt so that he can solidify his legacy, right? Now, my idea of what legacy is literally what happens when your career is all the way over and really taking care of your kids and people understanding that you're a champion and all of that. Whether somebody was an undisputed champion or a 3-belt champion and all that stuff, at the end of the day, it's really not going to mean that much, in my opinion. That's that distinction, because there are plenty of people over the last, let's call it since 1990, that have not been undisputed, who have made it to the Hall of Fame, and guys have made it to the Hall of Fame doing less than Errol Spence Jr.'s already done, right? Case in point is Miguel Cotto. And to this point, Errol Spence Jr. has had a better career than Miguel Cotto had as a champion at 140. He did have a champion at 141. 147 and 154. However, took major losses to pretty much all the top guys that he, what I say, is that fair? Lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr., lost to, anyway, I don't want to get too much into his career. However, I think that's about on par with, I mean, Errol Spence Jr.'s career is definitely on par with Miguel Cotto, and Miguel Cotto got in the Hall of Fame. So I don't think Errol Spence Jr.'s Hall of Fame status is hanging off whether he gets pound for pound or not, gets undisputed or not. However, it's something that he stated he wants. So Terence Crawford is, so clearly Shawn Porter is setting Terence Crawford up to deliver that message again, that he really does not need the fight. It's more important for Errol Spence. And then Shawn Porter backs that up with, hey man, now I fought Errol Spence Jr., for whatever, it really wasn't important to me. However, for you, I understand you want your money, and in this big mega fight, you need to make sure that they give you your money. So keep holding out for that money. Basically said, keep holding out for that money. Don't worry, that money is going to be there for you. And then we know the fight is going to get made. Now, first and foremost, I happen to know from inside sources that was not Shawn Porter's take with Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence, that was not Shawn Porter's take with Errol Spence Jr. Shawn Porter and Errol Spence Jr. fight was on pay-per-view. And I know from sources very, very close to Errol Spence Jr., very close to Errol Spence Jr., that the holdup in making that fight was that Shawn Porter insisted that the fight be on pay-per-view so he could get a percentage of the pay-per-view. And Errol Spence Jr. said this is not a pay-per-view fight and did not want the fight on pay-per-view. But Shawn Porter held out in the negotiations in order to get the fight on pay-per-view. So not exactly true that you were willing to take whatever amount of money and it wasn't a big deal. So Shawn was fudging a little bit like on that one. But to say, yeah, hold out for this money, to me is like, man, come on, man. Well, at least it's like this. Look, when these guys fought, and that towel got thrown in well before any major damage had fallen upon Shawn Porter. He got knocked down with some little flash knockdowns, bro. That whole conversation just made it seem, that whole fight that they had seem even more suspect to me, man. And maybe it was best that those guys had not fought, because now I'm thinking, man, hold on, man. You literally are telling this dude, setting this guy up for questions, saying so him to ask, no, I don't need the fight. And then say, nah, yeah, hold out for the money. Don't worry, hold out for the money. The money's going to be there. Well, what if the money's not going to be there, man? You know what I'm saying? So then Terence is like, I don't need it. And he walks away, and it becomes the PBC's fault that they don't pay this guy his money. Anyway, man, to me, I was just like, all right. Now, I don't mind it, right? Because that just shows how close of friends those guys are. But, at the end of the day, man, is definitely about the money for Terence Crawford, and making sure the most important thing for him is making sure he gets the money where he wants it, which is not a bad thing, because you are supposed to do that. I agree 100% that is what people are supposed to do to a certain extent. When you start trying to expand it beyond your own, what a fair rate for you is, however you calculate that, I think that interest that starts being something else. But anyway, it is what it is. That's my thoughts on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.